So, I want to talk about why I left my radio job and what journalistic integrity means to me, not just on an industrial scale, but on a personal scale as well. And if you are my former boss watching this, I apologize. I mean, I don't, but I do. But I don't. But I do. So, for those of you who might be new around here, for about a year and a half between, I believe, April of 2022 and November of 2023, I worked for a local radio station here in Reno called News Talk 780 KOH. KOH is very much a conservative talk station. Like it played all the classics, Sean Hannity, Mark Levin, all that stuff. I am very much using classics as I'm using it in jest. Now, I am very much not a conservative, if you can't tell from some of the content that I've put on here, but it was a radio job, and my original job when I signed on was I was just going to be a board operator, and the only time I was going to be on air was just to give news and traffic updates. Like that's obviously not political or commentary or anything like that. Because I was every Saturday morning I'd come in and I would do a news and traffic report on air, like talking. I had to write them myself every hour for about 7 hours. And it was fun. I loved it. I also got to help produce two live shows every Saturday morning, The Garden Show and Bosma on Business. Again, neither of which are political. I enjoyed the hell out of that Saturday shift. Fast forward to late spring of 2023. I am given the opportunity to move to afternoons, work a about 2 to 7 shift ish, working on the evening shows, Reno Talks Live and the John Sanchez Show. Now, the John Sanchez Show was strictly a financial show. I mean, obviously, politics and finance are going to be intertwined, and there were some occasions where you couldn't help bringing up politics, but that's just kind of the nature of that business, and it really wasn't anything like inflammatory or too much commentary. It was just, hey, these are the facts, this is what's going on with the government, this is how it's affecting finances, that kind of sort of thing. And I liked that show too. My problem came to Reno Talks Live. So again, it was the same stuff that I was more or less doing on the Saturday shift, except I wasn't really a board operator anymore. I was just news and traffic, which again, I had to write my own news stories. I had to, look up the traffic stuff every 15 minutes. Not a huge deal. But Reno Talks Live was very much a political commentary show. That is literally all it was for 2 hours every day. And being KOH is a conservative talk station and it has a conservative audience, the topics that are going to be talked about are very much conservative leaning, which, again, I didn't necessarily care about because all I was doing at that point was news and traffic. Until one day, my boss asks me if I can fill in as a co-host on the show for when the normal co-host was like on vacation. And I was obviously a little hesitant at first because I had never, been a co-host in a talk capacity on any kind of show, conservative, progressive, or otherwise. And even as a co-host, I still didn't wade into the conservative commentary all that much. Like, I was already, fully engulfed in my own political values, very much not conservative values, so I tried to not feed into that system as much as I possibly could. Like, I would still contribute on air, but I wouldn't really swing one way or the other. Or would just, like, anytime I would chime in, it was just for, neutral comments, asking neutral questions when we had, like, guests on or whatever, and I wouldn't really get too terribly involved into it. Then, that fateful day happened. October 7th, 2023. You know where this is going. Overnight, the tone of the station shifted. KOH immediately goes into Israel good, Palestine bad mode. And there is zero leeway either way in that scenario. 1 week later, literally 1 week later, a 6-year-old Muslim boy and his mother are both stabbed by their landlord in Chicago, purely because they were Muslim. Specifically, this was a Palestinian family. And that finally made the connection click in my head that the rhetoric that we were putting out on this station, like all of the conservative rhetoric, all the MAGA rhetoric, had real world consequences. I mean, I knew that already, but until I hate that something horrific like that had to happen for it to fully trigger in my head. And as soon as I found out about that, I believe it was the following Monday, because I believe it was one of the news stories that I led with in one of my newscasts. That day, I decided enough was enough. And I immediately began plotting my exit from KOH. Because I knew the things that we were talking about had real world consequences, and the rhetoric that conservative stations across the United States were putting out, not just us, but across the United States, were now having tangible, harmful consequences. A 6-year-old boy was dead because of the lies of the Conservative Party, the lies, the propaganda, and the racism of the Conservative Party. And I did not want my name attached to that in any way, shape, or form, because that is not what I stand for. And less than a month later, I was gone. Friday, November 10th, 2023 was my final show with KOH. Now, I am a journalism major. I literally went to school to study journalism. I have an associate's degree in journalism. And one of the huge things that they stress in not just journalism school, but college in general, is sources. You cannot just say things and not have the means to back it up. Journalism especially, you cannot let emotions guide your judgment and guide the things that you say. Because especially when you have a platform, your words have power. And unfortunately, many people who have those platforms do know that, and they exploit it for that power. You cannot just say inflammatory things because you are angry about something. When you are deliberately trying to rile up a fan base in favor of your opinion, that is an abuse of your power. Even on the personal level, even just in conversations with your friends and family, if you are just saying things to evoke a reaction, to sway people to your side, that is not okay. That, in my opinion, is no different than lying. If you are going to say things, make sure there is a factual reasoning behind it. The Middle East as a whole is a historical contextual nightmare. It is literally impossible to cherry pick things from things that are going on in the Middle East, regardless of what factions are involved. And I hate the whole thing. I abhor violence. I don't think war is ever the answer from any faction, regardless of what is going on. I think peace should always be the first and foremost goal. There should never need to be another weapon fired in the prospects of war in the coming history of mankind. We're all adults. We all know how to use our words. We can talk. War is always used as a dick measuring contest. I've got a bigger weapon than you. Words have the power to both heal and destroy. And I would rather we use words for their powers of healing than their powers of destruction. Every day. I think the world would be better off if we focused on that. I think about that little 6-year-old boy in Chicago all the time. And it is a constant reminder of what my words have the power to do. While it is a horrific thing that never should have happened, I do not want that little boy's death to be in vain. We are better than this as a society. And we need to be better.